We all know that Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian in a game of cards, and the game they were playing was Sabacc, as seen in Solo: A Star Wars Story. So the Toydarian Toymaker version of the Sabacc deck comes with a set of rules that tells you how to play the game. Unfortunately, it seems as though Disney does not like the idea of telling children how to gamble. As a result, the rules are completely bereft of any kind of mention of gambling or credits or stakes. It's essentially a game of almost pure chance. Not quite full Candyland status, but pretty close. The biggest culprit in all of this would be this guy. This is the Sabacc die. Actually, the core game comes with 2 of these. The idea being that if you roll 2 of them, and if they both show up with the same result, then everyone's hands are discarded, and you draw new hands, and then see who wins from there. Essentially invalidating everything everyone has done up to that point. So when I played the core rules for this game, I found it extremely lacking. I wanted to play like I'd seen in the movie. I wanted to push credits into the pile and bluff and try to scare off the other players. I wanted it to be more like a gambling game. Well, what do I do when I want something but it doesn't exist? I do it myself. And I should actually say that there have been several fan-made versions of the game. I think Corellian Spike is out there. There's a whole bunch of variations on it. You can find a lot of them online. This is just my version that I came up with, along with the help of my dad. So when designing this game, the first thing I wanted to do was get rid of this Sabacc die. Its purpose, as near as I can tell, is to reflect the early days of Sabacc in Star Wars stories where they would be playing cards and their cards were somewhat holographic and they would shimmer and change to other cards over the course of the game, meaning that if you hold on to your cards for too long, they will become different cards and ruin your strategy. So it encourages fast play, which is interesting. But we don't have the technology for holo cards, so the game designers decided that rolling some Sabacc dice would provide that element of randomness and make it so that you never know what's going to happen next. But the first thing I did when I designed my version of this game was to get rid of these Sabacc dice. For one thing, you never see them in the movies rolling any dice. As far as I can tell, there's not a single die to be seen on the table whenever they're playing cards. So it doesn't reflect what was seen in the movies, and it does not make for a very good game experience because it makes everything seem pointless. So that was step 1, was get rid of that. Step 2 is to introduce money. Because after all, what's the point of winning or losing if there are no stakes? So let's get into it. Let me show you how to play Half-Light Hustle. So the first thing we need to know about the game is the cards, how they work. So each card has a value and is either positive or negative, or it is one of 2 Psylops, which are 0 value cards. Then there are red cards. Apologies to anyone with red-green color blindness. Unfortunately, this game is not colorblind friendly at all. For most of the cards, it's easy to tell what the value is. You can just count the number of symbols on it. This is red and has 1 circle on it, therefore it's a -1. This is a -5, -6, +3. There are 3 suits. There are triangles, squares, and circles. The suits don't come into play in any of the game types I've seen, but it's cool to have them. When it comes to values 7 through 10, it gets a little trickier to distinguish, so I'll show you my way of distinguishing at a glance. When you draw a number 7, it is sort of spiky. It's got 2 jagged lines, and sometimes you draw another line in the middle. It's spiky, and the 7 cards are spiky. 8s. An octagon has 8 sides, and the shape on the 8s is somewhat like an octagon. It's got 8 sides and 8 little spikes and 8 little circles in the center. 9 has this full art, interesting looking, intricate design, and it has a line running down the middle. Line rhymes with 9, so this would be a 9. 10s look quite similar to 9s, but their distinguishing factor is they have the suit symbol in the center instead of a line. So I don't have a clever mnemonic for that, so that you just have to remember that one. Line is 9, symbol is 10. And then, of course, the 2 Psylops are unique. Now, the goal of modern Sabacc is to achieve a hand with a value closest to 0 as possible. If you have the best hand, then you win the round. For example, if this was your hand, then you've got a +10 and a -10, giving you a score of 0. Both of these are Sabaccs, that is, hands with a value of 0. But this one has 2 pairs, 2 10s and 2 3s, and is therefore a better Sabacc than this one, which has no pairs at all. Well, to illustrate how to play Half-Light Hustle, I thought I'd bring along some of my friends. First thing to do is everyone needs some credits. So for the purposes of this demonstration, each one of these white chips is worth 1 credit, and each one of the blue ones is worth 10. And I will be the dealer first. So the first thing to do is each player who wants to participate in this round must ante up. So the table decides collectively what the ante will be. For this game, let's just call it 1 credit to play. Okay, so currently there are 3 credits in the stakes. Once everyone has anteed up, then it's time for the dealer to shuffle. Now, shuffling with these cards is not extremely easy. I'm not good at shuffling to begin with. And I think even if you were trying to do the bridge of these cards, would result in them all exploding all over the place. The dealer deals 2 cards to each player. Now, I'll deal them face up, just for our own benefit. And then once every player has 2 cards, the top card of the deck is placed face up in the center. This one is face up so everyone can see it. And this is called the Axis card. The point of the Axis card is that it is treated as if it is in everyone's hand. So in that way, you can kind of tell a little bit about what everyone else has, because you know everyone has this card. Now that everyone's got their hand, we do 1 round of betting. You can choose to check, which is to say not raise the bet and just stay in the game, or you can raise the bet by putting in more credits, or you can call, which is to match the current bet and stay in the game, or you can fold, which is to throw away your cards and lose whatever credits you've put in the center. In the core rules for the Toydarian Toymaker version, it calls folding junking. You can junk your hand, but seeing as how there's no penalty for losing, as there's no gambling, there's really no point in ever junking because there's nothing to lose. So looking at everyone's hands, we can quickly see how close they are to a 0, to a Sabacc. R2D2 has a +6 and -1 and -7 in the middle, leaving him with a total of -2, which is pretty close to 0. It's actually a pretty good score. So he might be confident, I might say, and might throw in an extra 2 credits into the pot. Luke Skywalker over here has a total of +11 in hand, and then -7 brings him to a +4. Also fairly close. He's not feeling very confident, but he wants to play. He will call and match the previous bet. Now it comes to my turn. I'm sitting over here with a +3 and the Psylop, one of the 2 Psylops, as well as a -7. So that puts me at a -4. Again, pretty good. I'll play, just because this is a demonstration. So I will match. Now that everyone has agreed on the bet, then play continues with the Hustle. This is the main part of Half-Light Hustle. This is where you try and improve your hand to get as good as you can. During the Hustle, you start with the player to the dealer's left, in this case, R2D2. And on your turn, you can do 1, 2, or no actions on your turn. And there are 3 different actions available to you. You can either jettison, which is where you discard a card from your hand, and discarded cards always go face down, so no one else can know what they are. Or you can loot, which is where you draw a card and add it to your hand. Or you can trade, which is where you discard a card and then draw a card into your hand. However, you cannot discard if you have only 1 card in hand, and you cannot loot if you already have 4 cards in hand. So let's look at R2D2's hand. Because he has a total of -2, if you just got rid of this card, that puts him at a -1. If your hand is not a total value of 0, it's not a Sabacc, it's called a null rec, which can still win if no one else has a Sabacc. Looking at this, I think R2D2 might go for the null rec. So he's going to jettison, discarding 1 card, leaving him with a total value of -1. And then the turn passes to Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker could also jettison this card to try and hope for the best with a +1. In the rankings, a positive is always better than a negative, so having a +1 would win over a -1. Maybe Luke wants to hope for a -1 over here. So Luke's first action will be to trade. So discarding 1 card, drawing another. That is no good. Second action is going to be to jettison, discarding the second card, leaving Luke with a score of +1. All right, now comes to my turn. I don't have a lot to work with right now, so I'm first just going to loot. I'm going to draw a card. Oh, that's interesting. So that leaves me with a score of +2. Well, this 0 isn't actually doing anything for me right now. I probably should have just traded. I think I'll just trade now and see what happens. I'm going to get rid of the Psylop. Although it's a good card, I don't have a score of 0. So let's see what else I can get. Oh, that's very bad. Okay. My hand is now thoroughly ruined. I've got a score of positive 12, pretty much ensuring my defeat. So, that being said, that is the end of my turn. Everyone has had a chance to hustle. And now at this point, there's another round of betting. Starting with R2D2. R2 is not feeling super confident with a -1. He saw that Luke did a trade and then a discard. So maybe Luke has a good hand. So R2 is not going to raise the bet. Luke will raise the bet by 1. Now it's my chance to see if I want to fold, and I'm going to fold. I'm going to junk. I have no confidence in my ability to win this round, so I am just out. And R2 is going to call. Now after that second round of betting, each player has a chance to scramble. If at least one player declares scramble, then everyone has a chance to do so. And what you would do in a scramble is you would pay an amount into the spoils equal to 10 times the ante. So you would pay one of these. And no one else has to match that. That's only something you have to do. That essentially buys you one more action that you can take. So you could use that to jettison a card that's killing your hand, or you could do a trade to hope for the best, or you could draw another card. But in this case, I'm actually out, so I am unable to do so. R2 and Luke probably both have as good a hands as they're going to get, so neither of them will declare a scramble, and we proceed to the shootout. During the shootout, each player reveals their hands, and then everyone's values are compared, and whoever has the best hand wins everything in the spoils. In this case, Luke wins with a +1. So Luke wins all of this. The force was with him, it seems. And at that point, the dealer token goes clockwise. R2 is now the dealer. R2 gathers up all the cards. And then anyone who wants to play must ante up. Cards are shuffled and a new game begins. So one other thing I forgot to mention with Half-Light Hustle that's unique as far as I can tell to my version of the game is that there's another tactic you can take besides just trying to get as close to 0 as you can. You could go for a -4 and +4 for a 0, or you could try and go for a light side or dark side play. So if the Axis card was a +8 and you had these two cards in hand, well, that is a +10, +8, +4, which is a total value of 22. Ordinarily, that would be a very terrible hand. But if you have a total value of all your cards of 25 or greater, then it's called a light side play. And it counts as a value of 0. It counts as a Sabacc, and then is ranked accordingly. And of course, vice versa. If you have a lot of high negative cards, you could try and go for a dark side play to try and achieve a score of -25 or lower. If you manage that, then that is a dark side play and also counts as a Sabacc. It counts as if it had a value of 0. So essentially what that does is allows you to try one of multiple tactics. You can try and go for a dark side play, or you can try and just go for a 0 with a Sabacc, or you can go for a light side play. It adds a little more nuance to the game besides just the normal try and get to 0. So also what this does is if you see this as the Axis card in the middle, you know people out there might be trying to go for a light side play. So if you see someone gathering a lot of cards and they've got 4 cards in hand, maybe they've got something really good, or they're just trying to bluff you. And then one final rule, if you have a Sabacc with only 2 cards, 1 in the Axis and 1 in your hand, and neither of them are Cylops, then that is called the Idiot's Play. So if this was the Axis card, and this was my hand, then on my turn I could just do one action to jettison, get rid of this card, and I've got an easy Sabacc, easy 0. That is way too easy to do. Odds are someone at the table is going to have the opposite of the Axis card in their hand, and will just be able to jettison one card and guarantee a victory. So that being too easy, this is now called the Idiot's Play. So if you do this, then you don't actually win the spoils if you win. You actually only take 3 times the ante from the spoils. So if there was a whole bunch of money in here by the end of the round, then before the winner gets their spoils, you would reveal your Idiot's Play, and you would get 3, which gives you a net gain of 2 credits from the 1 you put in. So if everyone's got an Idiot's Play, then that means that the person who wins won't win very much. They will only win whatever's left over, if there is indeed anything. So the Idiot's Play is not totally worthless, it's just not guaranteed to give you the full payout you were expecting. And that being said, that is every rule of Half-Light Hustle. In practice, we found this game very fun to play. Players can come and go as they please, just like with poker. For future revisions, I may actually change the cost of doing a scramble, because 10 times the ante seems exorbitantly high. So I may change it to be 3 times the ante, just like the winnings you get from the Idiots play. Anyway, that's Half-Light Hustle. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was interesting. I hope to cover more board games in the future. Maybe at some point I'll tackle 3 Dragon Ante, which is another fun gambling game you can play with your D&D characters. Oh, I rolled doubles. Looks like it's time to throw away all the cards and draw a new hand. That's really fun, right? I'm not bitter. I'm very bitter.